I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, people? How you doing? It is a great day, and I'm so very excited to have my next guest on the show. She's a podcaster like me. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I really authors, musicians, those are the people that come on. People going after their dreams and their goals, but podcasters are one in a million. Let me tell you, baby. I have my CEO girlfriend on the show today. Her name is Marquita Garrett, and she is here to talk about her podcast and about the butterfly effect. I mean, there's all the kinds of things that she's going to be talking about today. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. Oh man, I'm telling you right now, it's just a pleasure to have you on the show. So I want to find out, when did you start podcasting?
Actually, this is my season 2.
Mm-hmm.
I actually started I want to say 2023. I was looking for well, let me just back up. In 2023, I got into a car accident. And I was holding down maybe 18 to 20 clients a week. And I was hearing some of the same old patterns over and over again. And I was like, I just wish I could, because the whole thing is, I'm sure nobody else is going through what I'm going through. And I'm like, if you only knew I had somebody 2 hours ago that was very similar to you. So I really was thinking, okay, I was in this car accident. I had to learn how to rewalk. I had to learn how to get my balance back. I was going through so much, so I had to cut my caseload down as a counselor. And at that point, I said, what can I do? And I thought I could probably interview people who are going through similar, who came out on the other side in a better condition.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, I was going through my own chrysalis. And I'm not even going to lie, it was rough. It was very rough, but I understood the tools that I would give a client. So I used those same tools. And I know other people who have come out through a transformation. And I just want clients to see that there is a forever after. There is another side. It doesn't just stop with whatever tragedy you are going through or whatever, situation is happening in your life. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, we've had people on the show who have had miscarriages.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people on the show who have had divorces.
Mm-hmm.
We've had people on the show who they were going through school. They were almost finished. The school closed. And they had to start all over from scratch.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
So
come on.
we have a lot of transitions and transformations that people have gone through and ended up just fine on the other side. Maybe not the same as they started,
Right.
but
Yeah.
sometimes stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Wow. Wow. I mean, I think that a lot of people who start podcasting because of that situation, because they're trying to find people who are similar to them, so they don't feel like as if they're the only ones in the world going through this, this situation, because we're not. There are people out there that have gone through similar situations. Nobody's identical, but
Right.
definitely the situation itself can be replicated. Wow. I'm glad you did that though, because my podcast journey started in 2006.
Oh,
So it's
really?
been, oh man, I've been doing this for a long time, but
You
I
were good
absolutely
at
love
it.
it. I would never give it up. Never give it up. Wow. So,
Really?
oh yeah, darling, I
Okay.
was, you want to hear my story? Was I was
I
depressed
would.
and I needed to get out of my depression and I didn't want to be medicated. And the one thing that I love to do is to encourage other people to go after their dreams and their goals. So I figured I would start a podcast, interview people who have made it, to encourage people who haven't. Very simple.
Love it.
And lo and behold, here I am. I'm still doing it today. What is that? That is almost 20
Almost
years.
20. Yeah.
That's 20 years of
Congratulations.
podcasting.
Yes.
But it's okay because I would never give it up. I actually quit my job and I do this full time.
Oh, well, that's amazing, because 8 hours a day, I don't know if I have that in me.
Hello, that's
So,
me. That's me. Hey. But no, it's a wonderful thing to see people progress like you and your journey and the way you've adapted to the podcasting and actually now encourage other people to show them that there is another side after the tragedy, after the
Right.
accident, after the situation. There is another side. It may not be what you've envisioned, but it definitely is another side.
We
Wow.
have to pivot.
There you go. There you go. So I wanted to ask you, can you share a little bit about your journey about becoming a licensed professional counselor? Because you did say that you were a counselor and how
Mhm.
storytelling became your central to your work. Because I mean, I know you had to drop some people, but you know, you got to be a storyteller to be a podcaster. How did this
I
happen?
was a storyteller before I
Uh,
was a podcaster. Before I was a counselor, that was something I used to go around. I did campfires for people, and I used to go around and, I would talk to people, get some different backgrounds. And by the time it was my turn to do a story, I had people in the audience enveloped into the story. So I
nice.
love stories. It's just one of my things. One of my biggest things I did when I first got out of college, my 4-year degree was I used to go to middle schools and high schools and talk about things like relationships. And I
Mhm.
would take like Jack and Jill, or I would redo the Wolf and the Three Pigs so that they understood and they could relate because they've heard that story, but they haven't heard it my way.
Mhm.
So I would adapt, and and I would talk to them too. Some of them thought at 13 their end all be all left them and it was going to be horrible and they would never find another love again in life.
I'm sorry, that was me. Like I'll never love again.
Exactly. Life is over as we know it.
As
And
we
some of
know
those,
it.
right. And some of them may have tried to commit suicide because of that. So, letting them know that there is a here and after. You
Hmm.
need to get there, and I
Yeah.
use fairy tales because fairy tales, especially grim fairy tales,
Mm.
are something we grew up with and we need to dislodge in our brain and disorganize. There is no prince for everybody. And if you really think about it, Prince Charming was Snow White, Cinderella, and mm, who was it? I forget, but they all had Prince Charming, and he
Hmm.
was the same prince.
He
That
was.
says something.
Even
So,
Princess of the Frog was the same prince.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it was. Yeah, it was. My goodness. Wow. Great observation, because but they had to be the same prince because he was like the character role. He was like the guy,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
Wow.
But
Wow.
the guy had 4 or 5 women. So,
Well, that we won't talk about. That we
right.
won't talk about. We will just leave that there. Yeah.
So he can't be your happily ever
No,
after.
he cannot be
So,
your happily ever after. Definitely not. But he could be your happily ever right now.
exactly. Hmm.
For
And you
right
just
now.
live through this moment,
That's right.
and
Let's
there
get
will
through
be
this.
others after that.
And there you go. Will you say that grace is an act or the act of forgiving yourself? How did you come to this realization and how has it influenced your own healing process?
Well, usually when we're going through it, we look inwardly. Most of the time, it's how did I get here? What did I do wrong? Why do I deserve this?
Hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, you didn't. You have to figure out in your own mind, and you have to come to the conclusion in your own mind that you give yourself enough forgiveness. I mean, we forgive everybody and their dog. So you got to give yourself and love yourself enough to forgive yourself for what you thought you did wrong. They
Hmm.
always say, I use divorce as a example. They always say, as a woman, how come I couldn't keep my man? Well, first off, he got to want to be kept, and it takes two in a marriage. So just because you married somebody doesn't mean they're your happily ever after. And it doesn't mean you can control the narrative of the story. You are just a character. So as long as you put on your big girl panties and go into the relationship the best you can, you did what you could do, sis.
Hmm.
Let it go, let him go, let her go, and move on.
That's right. That's
So
I
you
always
got to
say
give yourself enough grace to move on.
that's so true. I've said that so many times. I said, it's just amazing that my husband and I are still together since 1989. We've been together. I
Nice.
know it's so long. We've got two children, the grandchildren, and everything. Very faithful. At least on my end, I have been very faithful. He has two. He's told me, and
Hmm.
everybody that he knows, I know, and hopefully that is the truth. I can't verify that because I'm not him,
Right.
But
But you
I
trust
decide.
yourself enough
Right.
to have good judgment.
Exactly. So there is a level of trust that you have to have in that because you are not that person. You can't. I'm not the kind of person to be suspectful.
Hmm.
I'm the kind of person where I told him if there ever that happens, you need to come to me and tell me, and
Hmm.
then we need to either move forward together or we need to move forward apart. But it doesn't mean I don't love you anymore. It just means that it's time to whatever we do, whatever. you know
Exactly.
and so
Hmm.
you have to have that security within yourself and that honesty within yourself, like you said, to understand where you need to be at all times and who you need
Hmm.
to be with, because your ever after could not be any further from your never after. you
Correct.
know
Correct. But you mentioned two examples that I
right.
love to use as well. You said you're a
Nice.
parent,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're a parent, nobody gave you a manual to tell you how this should be done.
I wish.
And you're basically a human raising another human without the instructions.
Somebody gave me a human to raise, child. Why did you do that?
See,
So what was that about? Okay, here I'm here raising
well,
another human. Who did that?
as a grandparent, like life is just so different. You did the raising. You could sit back and you could criticize, you could observe, you can give information, and you could just love on them and send them home. So,
But I like a lot. I like the send them home part. It's like, no, they not
exactly.
my kids. I ain't raising them. You go ahead and do what you got to do. Oh, they cut
Mhm.
the rug. That's all I do. I just sit there like, yeah, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? That's your kid.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm always like, oh, well, poor baby.
Mhm. That is funny, boy. I tell you what, I am right there with you, sister. Right there with you. Oh my gosh, wow. So okay, so let's get back because we can get off on this one. We can just keep going, but I want to
Mhm.
bring it back to what we were trying to talk about before. Kids. Okay, never mind. You use the metaphor of a butterfly's life cycle for your
Mhm.
transformation. Can you share your personal journey on where you felt like you were in a chrysalis phase?
Um, Before my accident, when I was younger, I became a widow.
Mm.
And I had a widow, I became a widow with two little ones. And in my mind at that time, I just need to get them to 18 and then life will be okay. Right.
I'm sorry.
The chrysalis was squeezing me
You just
hard.
want them to 18. The goal.
Right. That was the goal. And I will tell you,
Oh my gosh, poor baby.
my oldest is 40 now. I not just got her to 18, but I got her over that hump. I got her through her issues with other
Mhm.
people, and her little sister. I'm actually at a beach house right now with all of my little grandbabies and
Oh,
my daughter. They're
oh.
celebrating me for my birthday this weekend.
Well, happy
So
birthday.
thank you. Thank you. Not a day over 25 times
Yay.
at least. So yeah, that was a hard time for me because that was my forever love. He told me he would always be there. And, unbeknownst to us, it just didn't work out that way.
Mhm.
So we actually, it's been over 30 years since he's been gone. So we've been through a whole lot, me and my babies, since then. But that was the roughest time. Matter of fact, I wasn't even used to people dying at that time. So I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, you should be done with it by now." I got down to 88 pounds. I forgot to eat. I was just going through the motions of life. Now I'm living life.
Mhm.
And that's the difference. My wings are spread, they're colorful. I'm showing them off to everybody because I love life. And at that time, I just wanted to get through the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, wow, wow. So how did you create that safe space for you to actually maybe grow up and maybe mature at that time? I mean, was there a safe space for you, or did you have like a pretend fairy tale kind of thing going
There was no safe space.
on?
I'm not one to believe in fairy tales. And maybe that's why I continue to pick holes in them. But there was no safe space. I'm a realist. And when he left, or when he passed, I just tried to figure out how am I raise these two? Because he was an excellent father. I really didn't have to do a whole lot. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing everything. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, I could get through this parenting thing because I got him. And then he's no longer there. So I was mad at him for like 2 years, like just angry. And that's a form of grief that I didn't realize. I kept trying to tell myself, well, you can't be mad at him. He didn't do this to you. But when I started raising the kids and I started encountering things that I never thought you would with kids, my safe space was being able to pray. I'm big on prayer, and that's my meditation as well. So my stepfather, who's a Baptist minister, would always call me his butterfly. And I never, like, he said, I transformed overnight. We know it wasn't overnight, right?
Yeah, I know that. That's why I'm just smiling.
It was not overnight. It was a lot of hard work. It
Yeah.
was a lot of humble pie. It was a lot of, why am I by myself 3, 4 years later? Because nobody was him. It was a lot of let go of this or let go of that and move on. And with grief, I always tell people there's no set amount of time to grieve. You got to go with what you feel.
Yeah.
Um, and people will come to you all the time like, ain't you done with that yet? That was my first love, girl. I'll sit here as long as I want to.
Hello.
But I did not wallow in it. I had to be there for my kids. And that was the biggest thing for me.
I hear you. So you do have a podcast called Emerging with Grace, right?
Mhm.
Tell me about that.
Well, that, like I said, I'm in season 2, and I just started doing YouTube videos with it. The first season was just audio, just audio. That's all we needed was audio.
Oh,
But
she's
I
a
had
girl.
some great.
I hate these. I hate videos. Like it was so easy to do the audio. It's like you get on there, you do your audio, you have people
Mhm.
guess, and then you're done. You
And-
might edit out a few different things, but with video, it's like you got to edit out the, you know, what I mean?
right.
And that's gonna
Shoot,
be the main thing because I'm not gonna go looking for that. Okay.
I wore a t-shirt, been comfortable. So
Right? I
nobody,
mean, I gotta get dressed up and stuff. I mean, like,
right,
really?
right.
I gotta find like a top. I feel like, and then I gotta
Something
put
else.
makeup on. I am one. I hate
Mm,
makeup. Hate it.
I'm
Hate it.
big. I'm not a makeup person, but it works. And I finally found a studio I could sit in and be okay with. But I've had some wonderful guests,
Mm,
some wonderful journeys that I'm able to be a part of and listen to. And I don't have to counsel them. They're here to tell me how they got through, what their safe space was,
hmm.
what their motivation was to make it to the other side, to overcome whatever they overcame.
Wow, that's great. Having that vehicle. Now you're in that vehicle. What is it like for you? Because I know that podcasting really can change a person's life, especially the purpose that it's founded upon. So
Mhm.
how has that changed your life?
Well, I wasn't like you. I wasn't jumping right into it and going to make a career out of it. But
Oh
since
no,
I've
it took
been
me
in
years.
it,
I'm sorry, it took me years. That
took
didn't happen.
years to get,
Oh yeah, that took me some years. Oh yeah,
nothing happens overnight. So,
like that.
right. I just love the people I work with. And that has changed. Just last week, I interviewed a young lady. She had, I can't say the word, it's some kind of cancer of the tongue. And I've never heard of that. And she told me when she was leaving the show that she had a great time and she felt like a burden had been lifted. And that's the thing I get from a lot of people. The problem is, she told me she wasn't going to listen to it because she hates the way she sounds now. It's like
Mm,
a skinny person that's now fat, they still see themselves as skinny. And the only thing that tells them nope is looking at themselves in a mirror or seeing themselves through other people's eyes.
mm. Wow, that's wow. It's sad though. I mean, but if that's
Mhm.
her thing and that's how she gets through, then that's how she gets through. Everybody
And
has,
that's
yeah,
and I
everybody has
and I
this safe space.
right, I said it on the air and I didn't edit that part out. If you don't listen to this, I'm not offended.
There you go.
Giving her the grace that, you don't have to say sorry. I
Exactly.
understand.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't have to. You know, the
Hmm.
the whole the whole purpose of she actually accomplished what she set out to do, which was to inspire people and to tell her story. And she did that.
Right.
And she doesn't have to listen to it. She lived it.
Right. Exactly. She lived it and
Mhm.
she's still living it.
There you go. Wow.
So,
Wow. So okay, so where do you see emerging with Grace heading in the next few years?
in the next few years, I'm all about, I'm a 5 to 7 year person. Once I get to a certain point, I have to either reinvent it or I have to add a different flavor to it, or I have to let it go and move on, just
Mhm.
like I would anything else. But Emerging with Grace, I'm hoping will touch women of all ages and hit them where their heart is and let them know they're not out there by themselves and they don't have to suffer through it and they don't have to continue to ask what they did wrong and why were they not blessed like somebody else. I always say don't look at somebody else's life because you don't know behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, and a
Wow.
lot of people live through the social media now that we have that. But
Hmm.
like a kaleidoscope is made up of all broken pieces and colors. But when
Hmm.
you look at it, it looks like it was meant to be that way by design. So Emerging with Grace is going to be whatever it is by design based on my clientele and my consumers. So
Nice. What legacy do you want to leave with emerging with Grace? What do you want people to take away from
I
this
want
podcast?
more people to look at themselves when they start going through a chrysalis to know that if they don't finish that chrysalis, they will never transform. I tell my students, as a professor I work with, there was a man, he saw a caterpillar weave its little cocoon and was in the cocoon and working to get out. And he saw it rumbling and moving, and it got a little crack in it, and then it stopped. So the man thought, I'm going to help you. And he opened up the chrysalis, and the caterpillar had little tiny wings and a big body. And the problem was he didn't let it squeeze the body into the wings. Had he left the caterpillar to go ahead and continue to transform, then the wings would have spread and they would have been bigger and the body would have shrunk.
Mm,
So I need people to understand, don't ask to come out of the chrysalis. Ask to what you're going to learn while you're going through it.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That's gorgeous. Yeah, leave me alone. Just don't touch me. Let me spread my wings, darling. Don't bother me, okay?
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. Where can people find your podcast?
I am, like I said, on YouTube, but I'm also on any format of podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, um, iHeart Radio, and it's Doc G, um, Doc G on all social platforms.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna put
It's
that.
me, Doc G. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No, no. What was that?
It's me, Doc G.
Awesome. I'm gonna put
DOC
that. I'm gonna
G.
put that in the
Okay.
description so that everybody, or wherever you're watching, all over the place. The box. We're gonna put that in the description and make sure that you guys know where to find that podcast. Because if you're going through something and you don't see the other side, it doesn't mean the other side isn't there. It doesn't mean that you're gonna come out perfect, but you're definitely gonna come out with a lesson learned, and also stronger, wiser, and better, and able to help
Mm,
other people who are going through something as well. I want to thank you so much, Doc G, for being on the show. Thank you, girlfriend.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Anytime, anytime. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. Now I'm going to go take this makeup off. Until next time, guys, don't forget to dare to be different. Bye.
You are so full of life.
I am trying to be, but I don't even know how to stop this recording. Thank you for watching.